Good morning, everyone. Appreciate you coming out early for a second day of Daytona International Speedway. It's NASCAR's preseason thunder. More exciting news to keep you busy today. I want to introduce a friend and a colleague who I hope you guys all get to know over the next several years, which is Tim Buckman, who will be working for NBC Sports on the NASCAR front. Some of you may recall him from his Fox days. He worked there for a while before he decided to get into golf and Callaway, but we'll forgive him for that. Tim Buckman.
Thank you very much, David. And thank you all for being here today. I know it's a little bit of an earlier start than perhaps what was originally planned, and I know that this news has added a level of complexity to what's already a very busy time for you, so we really appreciate you all being here. It's funny, when the news cycles get overloaded like this sometimes, I feel it's like being on the interstate and you run into some traffic due to construction work, and no matter what time of day or night it might be, you're always saying, like, why are they doing this now? Well, the reason we're doing this now is because all of us at NBC Sports, from Jeff Benke, our Vice President of NASCAR Production, to Sam Flood, the Executive Producer for all of NBC Sports and NBCSN, we are just beyond thrilled to be back in the business of covering NASCAR. We're thrilled to be here in Daytona this week, which brings a level of excitement unlike any other sports venue on the planet. And two of the things we're really excited about are here in the form of our newest NBC Sports NASCAR analyst in Steve Letarte and Jeff Burton. Jeff, we announced last month. Steve, as you all learned yesterday, will be joining us. So before we open up the room to questions, we're going to ask Sam, then Steve, then Jeff in that order to give us some opening remarks. And at that point, the room will be all yours. We're going to take questions right up until 9 o'clock. If any of you don't get any in, please come find me afterwards, and we will do our best to take care of you. So that's all the official particulars. Sam, please kick it off for us.
All right, thanks, Tim, and thank you all for coming out this morning. We couldn't be happier, as Tim said, to be back in the NASCAR business. The 6 years I spent on this project, the first time around with the NBC TNT joint venture, were 6 of the most rewarding and exciting years. We learned a lot, had a lot of fun, and met a lot of great people. And 2 of them are sitting up here next to me now because when we were doing it, we got to know people in the sport, and I knew there were some folks that were must-see TV. And I said if we ever got back in the sport, there were certain people we'd want on the team to be part of telling the story of this great sport to the nation on TV. So as we assembled the team, we first looked behind the camera, brought Jeff Benke in, who's going to live in Charlotte. So having Jeff in Charlotte is going to give us a full-time presence around all the race teams, race shops, which we think is really, really important. Then Jeff Burton, anytime there was a story, he's the first person we would send a pit reporter down to have a conversation with about because we knew he would have a strong opinion. It would be unfiltered, and we know that's going to happen when he starts broadcasting for us. And then Steve has so much personality, so much passion, so much energy that we know no matter what's going on the racetrack, even if it's a mellow race, Steve is going to make sure it is not a mellow telecast. And we think that's a great thing. And we think for the viewers, it's going to be an incredible way to experience the race with these 2 gentlemen. So I'll let Mr. Burton chime in here. One other thing, we have the 3rd member of the team is hiding somewhere in the room, Rick Allen. He has other responsibilities, but we wanted to get a former track and field athlete in the group that could handle multitasking and deal with a lot of different things. And since he was a decathlete, we think he can deal with these 2 gentlemen and keep Steve and Jeff in line, plus the folks on pit road that we'll be announcing shortly. And I'll hand it off to Mr. Burton at this point.
Well, and if not, he can run away from us really quickly, too, which I'm sure is his first instinct. But, this to me has been a really exciting process, having a chance to spend some time with Steve and Rick and Marty and Jeff Benke and Sam and really start to build a team. I mean, that's what this is. It's about being a team. And, I'm really excited about it. To me, it's a natural, feels really natural to me. It feels like it's meant to be. Really excited to finally get the 3 guys in the booth together and to work with Steve to me, is going to be a lot of fun. Steve has so much energy, and I'm looking forward to disagreeing with him on air and having lively debates and prove once again that drivers truly are smarter than crew chiefs. But it's going to be fun, and honestly, that's what it needs to be. It needs to be fun and lighthearted and serious when it needs to be serious. But this is a sport that has a lot of energy and a lot of excitement, and hopefully we can do a good job of bringing that out. And bringing Steve on is Steve and I have talked for a little while about it, and I think both of us are really excited about working together. And this is fun. I mean, it's going to be a good time. And the thing I'm really excited about is if you watch NBC Sports, it's professionalism. It's done right. It's done in a professional way. It's not it's not hokey. It's professional. And to me, that's a lot for us to live up to. So I'm excited about it and looking forward to it, and really almost wish we could start tomorrow.
Well, I mean, I'll follow all that up, I guess. I'd like to thank Sam and everybody at NBC. I'm excited about the opportunity. I don't think it's any secret in the room that I've always enjoyed the broadcast side. I've always dabbled in it. I do have a pretty loud and colorful personality, and I think it's enjoyable to be on that side of the camera. I have never been able to do it in a capacity where I feel it was my responsibility to bring much to the broadcast other than my color and expertise, because as the color guy, when you get invited in as a crew chief, you really don't have to prepare much. So it's going to be a new challenge, an exciting challenge. I think I've learned a lot in 19 years in the garage here of how to prepare for events and be prepared for whatever could come at you. So I do agree with both of them that we'll be able to put on great broadcasts. And I think NASCAR has built a great sport. I've lived in the garage now for 19 years. No one ever really gets a script, the timing of it all, and how you have to do it. But I was the guy too young to be in the garage when I was a tire guy, and then I was the guy too young to be in the garage as a crew chief. So I thought it probably was only, why not be the guy that's, man, you're really young to go into television. I figured it goes wrong with my track record. But it's an exciting opportunity. It's one of those that even when we started talking, and I think it was in the press release, Sam and the entire NBC group's excitement is really what swayed me over. I think, it's not just a PR stunt. They're very, very excited to be back into the sport. It's a sport that I obviously not only love, but really my lifestyle too. My family, everything we've ever had has been driven by NASCAR. So I thought this was the next step, and I hope I can take some of the responsibility to bring that back to the fans.
We can open up for questions now.
Jennifer, AP. Steve, why now get off the pit box, and do you fear you're going to miss the competition side of it?
Well, I mean, there's all kinds of fears. I think change drives fear in anybody. It'd be lying if not. I mean, all I've known is Hendrick Motorsports since I was 16. I've never worked anywhere else. But, there's a lot. I could waste the entire 30 minutes going through all the whys, but really when it comes down to it, probably the number one thing is I have an 8 and a 10-year-old child, and I know the commitment it takes to be a top-level crew chief. And I don't know firsthand the commitment that it takes to be great on television, and Sam and these guys are going to teach me that. But in my conversations with Sam, I don't think it's quite the same time commitment and travel commitment. And those, when it came down to it, the lists are very, very long, but that would have to go to the top of the list. I've always said, I don't think I've ever hidden it from anyone, that my family's always been my number one priority. And it comes down to that, if I'm going to be unsuccessful in anything I do, being a father shouldn't be on the list. So I'm going to put that one first, and this allows me to put that one first and still be in a sport that I love and join a great team.
Bob Hocker, Sporting News. Steve, when making this decision, did you have to battle any feelings of guilt that, you've spent 20 years at Hendrick and you've been leading Junior up, progressively better, but if you don't win a championship this year, I assume you'd feel like you've kind of left something on the table.
I don't think I'll feel I left something on the table as far as our on-track activity, but there's without a doubt guilt. When you work somewhere for 19 years, my shot guy I hired when he was 19 years old. There are guys I've come to work with since I was 16 years old that have raised me. Some of the toughest conversations I've ever had in my life is and I've had a lot of tough ones as a crew chief, and none of those compare when I had to sit across the desk from Rick Hendrick, and he already kind of knew the answer. But to tell him, the man who's kind of raised me, that was a tough conversation to have, to sit down with my early guys that, we're a family, but they understood, they're my family, but they're my second family. And I think we all care about each other enough that they understood that me putting my first family first was what I've always preached to them and I would expect them to do. And they're really excited for me. Dale's been super supportive. He's excited. Rick's excited. I think it came out in all their quotes that, this is a good move for me. It's opportunity now for Hendrick to decide what they want to do. And I think it's kind of a win-win at the moment.
Yeah, Jeff, Al Pierce from Auto Week. Late last year, you kept putting us off saying, I've got things in the works, I'm working. Did this come before the Michael Waltrip offer, or was the Waltrip test driver deal preceding this? Which came first?
This was ahead of everything. This was pretty far down the road, and was rattling around in my head before anything else, for sure.
The day we announced the deal, I was on the phone with Jeff. That's how much we knew Jeff was going to be part of this team and wanted to be part of this team.
Jeff Clark from USA Today. Steve, how did you break the news to Dale Jr.? When did you do it? I mean, was this like phone call or text, or how do you tell somebody like that?
I don't know if I can remember the specific time. That's the unique thing about Dale and I is, we have a tough, very strong professional relationship. But I think our success has really become from our personal relationship, that he has taught me a lot about life in the last 3 years. I hope I've taught him a lot about how I prepare and how I go through life. And, he's a unmarried guy without children. I'm a married guy with children, yet, man, we bounce a lot of stuff off one another. And he was a person that I involved pretty early in the whole thing because, I want his opinion. And we're very good at separating the two. What his professional opinion is and what his personal opinion may be separate. No different than mine. But, I don't think there was a specific time. But we've had multiple conversations. To do what we've tried to do the last 3 years and hopefully will do this year and win a bunch of races and contend for a championship is more than just, coming to work and saying hello. We spent a lot of time away from the track together. Not just time. We're very involved in each other's lives, and I hope that to continue past the end of 2014. But we still have a year to go, and this opportunity will really let me cherish that year like I would hope, where I can really, when I come down here in a few weeks, this will be my last shot as a crew chief for a Daytona 500 pole for a 150s win. I've never won a Daytona 500 as a crew chief. Those opportunities I think will make me really enjoy and cherish and put the right foot forward for the next season. Well, ultimately it's my decision, but, we trust each other. This is something that I'm not going to go down this path and have him be the last guy to find out. I want him to be the first guy to find out. Behind maybe my wife, he's probably the second person I would have told to he's a smart guy. His opinions, and he didn't, I wouldn't say he weighed in tremendously, but he listened, and sometimes all you really want somebody to do to listen. And, so he's one of my confidants. He's one of the guys that we kind of go into battle together, and this is a life-changing decision, and he's been a life-changing guy for me. So, I would say we talked about it.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. Steve, Rick said yesterday that they would address the issue of your successor at the end of the year. But are you going to be involved in that process at all and still contribute in that way?
That's a great question. I wish I could answer it. I don't think it's up to me. I think it's the best job in the garage is becoming open. I would put it at the top of the list. I think Rick has proven time and time again that he is spectacular with the people, and he finds matchups that work. Dale and I are the perfect example. I knew Dale to say hello, but until he said, hey, he's going to be your guy, and I rode up to his house and we sat down and talked, we didn't know anything really about each other. And I think it's really blossomed into a great professional relationship and personally. So I think that's a question for Rick Hendrick, how much he wants to involve me or not involve me. I'd be happy to help him any way I can, help Dale, help anyone involved. I wasn't making it up when they're my second family. They're going to be my second family even when I leave, when you're there that long. So, I care about them like family, and I'll do anything I can do to help with their decision if they want my help. Sometimes, Rick's Rick, right? He's the magician to this. He puts the right people together. So I don't know if he needs my help, but if he wants it, I'll be here.
Claire Belang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. I've talked some with Jeff about NBC and what they'll be doing and how it's going to be different and sort of a fresh look and a new take. What do you look at? How do you look at what you want to accomplish, how you see the broadcast with you added to it? I'm sure you've been studying what, teams have already done. What are you thinking you'll add to it and how in a different way?
This is for me. I love racing. I don't have a memory in my life that I wasn't at a racetrack since I was 5 years old at Thunder Road in Vermont or at the Oxford 250. I've raced. It's all I've ever done. I'm a huge sports fan. I think I understand baseball probably the best, football right behind that, enjoy golf. So I think what I'll be able to do perhaps is, and I think Jeff can help me on this because he's kind of like me in a racing family, that Sam and Jeff Banke and the NBC people, they're experts on broadcast, and we're experts on racing, and we're hoping when we combine those two, we can come up with the best way to broadcast the race. Racing is very different. Scores not kept. It's not like any other sport. You can't think of another sport where there's not a score, and there's not a score in racing until the final lap, and I think it needs to be covered that way, and it goes back to what I said about the excitement. When I met with Sam the first time, it was very clear to me that they aren't just going to put racing on film and show it to the world. They're going to cover it and broadcast it in a way that makes it exciting for the race fan, and I hope I get a chance to chime in on that.
Jeff, do you have any thoughts on that last question as well?
Well, I think enthusiasm. I mean, I think Steve and I both have a passion for this sport. It's something that we've both grown up with doing. It's not something you walk away from, and that's the thing is, I can't speak for Steve, but I feel like he feels the same way I do. Is we don't want to walk away from the sport. This is another opportunity in the sport, and bring our enthusiasm to the broadcast, and hopefully bring our knowledge. I mean, Steve has worked with some of the best drivers in our sport. I've driven for some of the best car owners in our sport. I think we bring a unique perspective as every broadcasters do. But ultimately, it's about enthusiasm, excitement, and facts. Honestly, facts is when we're talking, we need to be talking accurately. We need to when we're talking, people are assuming what we're saying is factual, and we got to make sure it is, because I think that's a disservice to our race fans if we don't know what we're talking about. So bringing truth to it and making sure we do it with enthusiasm and excitement, which I don't think that's going to be a problem. That really to me is what it's about.
And we expect them to have the same work ethic, which we know they do from their careers to this point. But in television, Chris Collinsworth is the gold standard for analysts in the NFL. That same work ethic and the way he goes about preparing for a game, he's going to talk with these guys. He's going to talk about his systems and how he does things and the people he talks to get ready for the number one show in television, Sunday Night Football. And that's part of the DNA that comes with NBC Sports. And these guys are going to be a part of that. And the expectation for greatness every time they do a show, and to do it right and to talk to the right people and have the right information. And with Rick leading the way, we think it's going to be a really good combination.
I think it's important to note, too, real quickly, is we aren't retiring. We're taking another position in the sport. And I think that's noted. That needs to be noted. We're not walking away from work. We're accepting a new challenge. And Steve and I have talked a lot about this. We want to outwork everybody. We want to, this isn't a right to do this. We've earned it. Now we got to go earn it every single day. And that's what he's done as a crew chief. That's what I feel like I've done as a driver. And we hope to bring that to the broadcast as well.
Jim Utter, Charlotte Observer. For Steve, particularly being Dale Jr.'s crew chief, you are probably no stranger to having your decisions second-guessed, whether it be from fans on Twitter or so forth. But I was just wondering, given the fact that there's the situation, given the fact that you now said, I'm leaving at the end of this season, are you ready for people to try to, everything that doesn't seemingly go right might get blamed on the idea that you're somehow not focused on the job at hand? Or do you just approach that the way you've approached it the last 3 years?
Well, I think, it's a legitimate question. I think people are going to blame all kinds of stuff they want to blame. But if, I've, like Jeff mentioned, I've been able to work with some of the two biggest stars in the sport since I was a young kid and became the crew chief for Jeff. I've been second guessed and I can assure the group that no one second guesses or questions my decisions more than me. I want to be better the next day than I was yesterday. And the only way you do that is to truly look in the mirror and decide what decisions you made. But I also agree, and I tell all my guys this, every day I get up, when I look in the mirror, I say I'm going to outwork and outperform everyone in my field. And that's my goal. Does that always come through on the racetrack? Does that come through as success in victory lane? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. That's what I love about the sport. But everyone in today's world has the ability with social media and the media to have opinions, and there's great opinions. And I've learned in life you need to not block them out, but maybe listen, because there's a little truth in every opinion, even if it's not 100% true. And, I don't think that Rick or Dale or the people that work with me will ever question my effort. I hope they never would. I think they know how hard I work, and I would expect the same thing next year.
Nate Ryan, USA Today Sports. Kind of following up on Jim's question, Steve. This is sort of a unique situation, having a crew chief that has a known expiration date, but it's not so unique for drivers. And oftentimes when you have a lame duck driver, it doesn't lead to great results. It devolves into a morass of ill will and hurt feelings and poor performance.
That's a good pep talk.
Yeah.
I tell you what, man, I need to bring you in the
Go
group.
get them.
I think we should break on that one.
How is it going to be different from a crew chief perspective, knowing that this is it? This is one and done, and you guys still want to win a championship. How are you guys going to still deliver that high level and kind of pick off where you – maybe that's part of the answer, is that you guys ended on last year on such a high note. Is that almost beneficial that this last season is coming after your best season so far with the 88? Or?
I think what makes this situation unique compared to any driver situation I can remember is I'm not going to crew chief for another organization. So when I go to Charlotte with Dale Jr., it's going to be our last trip together to Charlotte. And I feel like I said earlier, I have the best job in the garage area. I've enjoyed every race we've ran together, every practice we've run together. The best part of my job are the 4 hours on Sunday afternoon we try to go win. So I think that this is a very different situation because, I'm not working on being a broadcaster in 2014. I'm working on filling a trophy case. And to do that, we have to win our first race. And Dale and I have had that conversation, and he said it the best, that this will give us an opportunity to really cherish those races and those opportunities. And I think, if anything, it might allow us to be better at our jobs because, frustration sets in to everyone in the garage area. It's a tough sport. If it doesn't set in, you don't care enough about your job. And I think this is one more thing that could maybe drag us out of the frustration because there's a time stamp on the end of it. So do you really want to throw away your last trip to Sonoma together? Do you really want to not, do you want to put personal feelings in the way of trying to win the Brickyard? And I think to do that would really, it'd be a shame for what we've built over the last 3 years. And I don't think it would happen. I think social media and perhaps the media will have a much more issue with it than we will internally in the race team.
Rick Minner from Racing Today for Jeff and Steve. I'm wondering if part of the appeal of this job is you get to sort of keep your current identity. I mean, you're still going to be identified, and fans will look at you as a driver and Steve as a crew chief. And I assume you still sort of feel like part of the fraternity you've always been a part of, maybe even still living the motor coach life. Is that part of what appeals to these jobs for you?
Well, part of it is for me. I mean, my life's been around being around a racetrack, and you don't have there's a timeline on drivers. You don't drive forever, and when this opportunity presented itself, it just felt natural. And yes, some of my dearest friends are in this garage, and the lessons of my life, honestly, have been learned in these garages, so yeah, being able to be a part of it and stay part of it is a huge attraction to me. I would not, if somebody called me and said, "Would you like to do Sunday night football?" I probably wouldn't have any interest in that because it's not what I know, it's not my passion. But to be able to stay involved and stay in touch with the people I know and have my identity, of course, that's a huge amount to me.
I think without a doubt, that's the easy and honest truth that the garage area is my home and has been for a long time. But I will say that I'm excited to take part in television. I am a colorful personality. I don't like to be in the I think Dale and I get along so well because I fill the conversations with words, right? I like to talk. I like to talk about the sport. I like to talk to people. Everyone in this room and I probably have a personal relationship where they've talked to me. And I feel I've been given the opportunities to work in this sport, and I feel I have some responsibility to bring those hopes to the fans. I think the fans have built the sport. The fans have, as we all know, we have a huge fan base here at Junior Nation, right? So they've pushed me as a crew chief to try to be better, and I feel that I'm going to try to take that responsibility to the broadcast booth and deliver back a broadcast about a race that they deserve, so they can see it from maybe a different perspective than they have in the past.
David Carville, NASCAR.com. Sam, you have two guys as analysts who are straight out of the garage area. I'm assuming that's intentional, and maybe you're trying to bring a more contemporary feel to your broadcasts?
More than anything, it's these two guys are unique personalities. I mean, Jeff, I knew from day one was someone we were going to target, and then Steve, listening to Sirius XM, anytime he was on the radio, you stopped and paid attention, and that made me aware of how important it was to try and add him to this group. So I like the fact that they're fresh out of the car. I like the fact that Jeff is going to be on the racetrack this year. I like the fact that Steve is going to win a lot of races this year and be able to go back and said, we won here last year. So if those happen in the last 20 weeks of the season, we're fine with that. Yeah. So it'll be better for our telecasts. But I do think the freshness and straight off the track is important to us. But more than anything, it's these guys will tell the story of the race. They're passionate about it. And I think they'll outwork anyone. And that's what I really like. We have a legacy of NBC Sports are really working hard and making the product and making the sport shine. We've done that with hockey. We've done that with the NFL. We do that with the Premier League. We want to continue it here.
Dustin Long, MRN. Steve, when it's all over at Homestead after 4 years with Dale, what are the things that you hope that you leave with Dale in the sense? Certainly we've seen the progression of this team and of Dale, and maybe fair or unfair, you've gotten a lot of credit for it. When it's the lessons over these past 4 years, what do you want to leave with Dale so that he can continue to strive and further himself and have more and more chances of success?
Well, I think, two big things. I think the first is that their success in 2015 should be over the top. I appreciate the credit I'm given within the 88, but I'm just a really, really small part of it. Dale's an internal leader within the team without even asking to be. The guys on the team, they need very little direction to try to be the best. They do a lot on their own. So I think that their success in 2015 will mean a lot to me. I hope that when I leave, that can be as successful or more successful than we were as a team. And then just all the friendships I've created, I'd like for them to continue. I hope that moving forward into my new career that I can maintain the friendships as friendships and not be seen that I'm trying to leverage them to help my new position. But Dale and I are friends. I hope to spend time together and support him any way I can in his new venture. But this team, it's a great group of guys with a great driver. They're going to win a lot of races whether I'm on the pit box or not.
We're going to take our final question here as we're running right up into 9 o'clock.
Kenny Bruce with NASCAR.com. For Jeff and Steve both, for your entire careers, your focus has been on individual teams. What's best for the 31, what's best for the 88 or whatever. Is it going to be difficult for you guys to step back and see the sport as a whole and the changes in it and understand what's going on in it? Just basically because you're looking at it differently now.
I think that's a really good question, and I think that I got exposed to that a lot in trying to help move the ball a little bit from a safety standpoint. I got exposed to that some, and I think that for the most part you'd be surprised how many drivers and crew chiefs and we really talk about what's best for the sport. Now, ultimately, what we really care about is what's best for us, but there's probably more conversation about that than you realize, and I think there's a healthy respect in the garage for understanding that if the sport isn't in good shape and the fans aren't happy, that we got a problem. And I think that's evolved as the economy went down and viewership started going down. I think we have more appreciation of that today than we did, say 10 years ago. So, it is going to be a transition, but at the same time, we want to be the best. We want to be the best in this business. We want to do a better job than our competition. We want to be the best. It's kind of like being He crew chiefs the 88, but he also wants the 24 to run well. He wants, you know what I mean? So I think there's a little bit of a shift in our thought process, but not as big as you would think.
Yeah, I think there's really two parts to that. You know, the first is how will I be able to see the sport from a global standpoint. I think I've been very fortunate to work with probably the two best ambassadors or two of the biggest ambassadors for NASCAR. And I think Jeff Gordon's had a great career, but I don't think anyone in the room here would ever question what he's done for the sport on a global level, not even on a personal level. He's very involved. He's always been involved, and I think he, just like Jeff said here, I think everyone in that garage here takes ownership in the brand of NASCAR, and they do everything they can try to do to push it forward. And I think Jeff did that, and there's no doubt in my mind that Dale Jr. does that. You know, he is, you know, one of the faces of NASCAR, definitely the most popular face. I don't think he takes that lightly. I think he understands his role within it, and he's taught me that I have a role within it. Our team has a role within it. And, you know, the second part of that question is I feel I still have a team. You know, that's the beauty of this. And after talking to Sam, how I understood it, and that excites me. And that's, you know, we will have a team just like we do as a race team. You know, our goal isn't to win the race. Our goals are different. But we still have a team that we kind of go into battle with. And when the race is put on, this team has a responsibility to be the best out there. And you've heard Sam say it multiple times about work ethic, and Jeff say it about preparation. And, you know, that's not something I feel I would ever be able to shut off. You know, my joke is always, you know, you can hire any position on a race team by having them go clean a room. Because no matter what job you do, whether you're a race car driver or crew chief or media person, it becomes a job at some point, at some day. I have friends that are golfers, and they'll say, you don't want to ruin a great hobby, make it your job. Right? And that's the truth. It's our jobs, and we all don't love them every single day. You can't. So what carries you through those days are your responsibilities, your work ethic, and how you've been raised. And I think that will force Jeff and I to see the sport as it needs to be seen from the broadcast booth, and it'll force the group that NBC's assembled to be the best on television.
Again, thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Really appreciate it. And if anyone didn't get their question in, please come see me, and we'll do your best to help us out.